Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids. No one makes countries lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on UCY.tv, and I'm your host for the next hour. Now, I've been talking a lot about the Islam and Muslims of late, last few shows anyways, and it really is quite pathetic what's going on. Town about the city, it's not really a city, it's a town of about 22,000 people, but it's the largest place within about 2 hours driving distance of here, and an hour and a half anyways, and they've been having all these mosque parties, if you will, where the politicians and the preachers and the people from the Jewish churches and that are all expounding the value of Islam, which is really quite sickening because it goes completely against the grain of everything we grew up with, everything that tells us of who we are. We are in the West here, Europeans, or European descent for the most part, always were. We're the ones that came here first. And apparently, we don't matter anymore. I think what's happened is that they've indebted us to the point where the countries can't borrow any money against us anymore. They bringing in their Muslim contingent now. We were flooded way back in the 70s with East Indians, and then the Chinese came, and now it's time for the Muslims to show up. We are being watered down quickly, and we need to wake up to that. Anyways, this is my town, little town, Kincardine, Ontario, up on Lake Huron, and town itself is about 7,500 people. The municipality is about 12,000 people. And the Kincardine community holds vigil at Islamic Center is the headline on the Kincardine Independent News. Now, this is the first newspaper I've purchased in an extremely long time. I don't recall the last time I actually put money down on the counter for a newspaper, and I always tell people not to do so because you just encourage these clowns to keep writing the garbage they write. But when I was home for lunch today, I couldn't find this story online at noon, so I bought an issue of the Kincardine Independent. which is not independent at all. The guy who originally started this worked for the Kincardine News many years ago, and he quit working for the news because he didn't think they were sharing enough knowledge with the people, and he was a young guy at the time, and broke loose and started the Kincardine Independent. Well, as Agenda 21, the UN breathes ever increasingly down our throats. The municipality didn't like some of what Eric was printing. So they said that they couldn't afford to advertise in both newspapers, the town, with all the town notices and that, which really does help float these little papers. And they said they were going to withdraw all the town municipal advertising from his paper. Well, that would pretty much put him out of business. That's when Eric sold his soul. Probably sold it sooner than that, but he sold it then. And after he sold his soul, there was another meeting in the municipal hall, and they agreed that they would continue to put advertisements in the Kincardine Independent. And right after all that happened, the Kincardine Independent was promoting everything that the globalists want promoted. And I don't know how a man can do that. This one can't. Anyways, it says the Kincardine community holds a vigil at an Islamic center. Well, I'm part of the community. I live here. So do 7,500 other people live here, and 12,000 in, I guess, the municipal community. It says the Kincardine community holds a vigil. Well, that means that most of the people would have showed up there. But of course they didn't. And this is how they play with people's heads. It says an estimated 250 people showed up. Well, 250 out of 12,000 is not really a drop in the bucket. But the headline says the community holds a vigil. Well, the community didn't hold a vigil. Some players, some agents of the globalists held a vigil. It says here an estimated 250 people, including Huron Bruce MP Ben Lobb. That's a federal MP. He's conservative. Huron Bruce MPP Lisa Thompson. And she's conservative. Municipality Kincardine Mayor Ann Eady. She was on the education board and is a complete lunatic. And Councillor Laura Height. Now, I know Laura Height. I ran against her as mayor. And she got voted out completely. And then in the last election, which I wasn't allowed in 2014 to run because of a technicality, Laura Height run again. It's actually Laura Haight, H-A-I-G-H-T. And she is a hateful Marxist. They'll gather at the Islamic Center in Kincardine for a candlelight vigil Friday evening. Well, it doesn't sound like the community. It sounds, let's see, a federal conservative sitting, and the provincial MP, the mayor of Kincardine, the councillor of Kincardine. That doesn't sound like the community. It sounds like a bunch of friggin' politicians. So they gathered at the Islamic Center in Kincardine for candlelight vigils Friday evening. Now, we have a Islamic Center in a Scottish town of 7,500 people. Give that a little bit of thought. Friday was the same day funerals were held in Quebec for 3 of the victims shot at Quebec City Mosque. The man accused of the murders is a French-Canadian college student who is reported to have violently anti-Muslim and far-right political views. In Kincardine, after the formal speeches and the reading of a poem, people carrying flickering candles continued to gather in the icy wind outside the center to ensure their message of support, friendship, and peace was visible to everyone. Some of the Kincardine people were from various local churches, and others were simply members of the community who were horrified by the murders of the 6 innocent men, some of them fathers with young children. The event in Kincardine echoes similar gatherings, some formal but many spontaneous, held across the country. Organizers in Kincardine were Reverend Kathy Fraser, and she is of the Presbyterian Church, and I know Kathy Fraser. I spoke with her, I guess about 10 years ago, when I was trying to alert people to the fraud of renewable energy, wind turbines and windmills and wind farms in particular. And I knew that if we're going to put a fight up, we're going to need some bodies. So I went to the churches here to gather up some support for the people that were being negatively impacted by this globalist fraud called renewable energy. And not one preacher, not one reverend was on side with protecting the people who were being menaced by this influx of globalist fake energy. Not one of them. Not one of them. But Kathy, I will never forget Kathy Fraser, because while I got the cold shoulder from all the other churches, I swear to God, when I talked to Kathy Fraser and went in her office, it was like, it reminded me of The Exorcist. You know, there's a scene there where it's really freaking cold. Really cold. And that was the impression I got from Kathy Fraser. I swear to God it was cold. I mean, icy bad cold. And this was in the summertime, and they didn't have no air conditioning on. It was just evil. Joyce Hunt, I don't know. And Alan Thompson. Alan Thompson was he ran in the last federal election on the Liberal ticket, or the Democratic ticket if you're in the States. And I had some pretty interesting conversations with his staff and his handlers about the fraud that was going on. And Ayman Fada were there. Now, he's a Muslim. Efforts to get something together began only 2 days earlier, then it just spread, said Fraser, the evil witch of the Presbyterian Church. Thompson reached out to his friend at the mosque, Ayman Fada, to see how the community could get involved with their vigil. With little time to organize, we posted a single notice to Facebook, borrowed the candles we use in the Christmas Eve service at the Presbyterian Church. Now, this is the church holding a vigil for Islam. It's not a mosque. Kathy Fraser is not a member of a mosque. She is the reverend of the Presbyterian Church. So you see how evil this has all gotten. And then, to our amazement, watched as dozens and dozens of people arrived, bundled up against the bitter cold, he said. Well, I don't know how we could have bitter cold in the middle of global warming, but apparently we did have bitter cold. Of course, global warming is another fraud. But these politicians and these preachers all project these lies and these frauds as reality and truth. And that really sickens the hell out of me. It says people drove as far away as Bayfield, Goderich, and Port Elgin. That's about a half hour out. to show their support for their Muslim neighbors. Lisa Thompson said how proud she was of the people of Kincardine for the amazing turnout. Now, I went to a hydro meeting put on by Lisa Thompson, the MPP. Not the MPP, she is the, she is the MPP, but she's in the opposition position, not in power. The Liberals have power in the province. And I went to a hydro meeting that she sponsored with two guys from Hydro One and a ombudsman woman. And I basically tore the whole works of the new one. And surprise, surprise to me, my comments made two newspapers. Usually I'm not reported on, and I miss these meetings. I used to go to a ton of these meetings, and I would go in there, as a man should go in there, and stomp on these people, and try to alert the others that attend to the frauds that these people are involved in. Even though I've asked Lisa Thompson many times over the past 5-6 years for a meeting, we've never met until that meeting that was put on about Ontario Hydro. She will not meet with me. Here in Kincardine and across here in Bruce and across Canada, we stand together with all Canadians, she said. We stand united in the sense that we are an open, inclusive, and welcome community. Now that's straight UN logo or lingo. They regurgitate this shit, and they should all be, jailed because of it. Asif Raza, a local member of the Muslim community in Kincardine, read from a stirring poem that he wrote in the wake of the Quebec shootings. And we have a nice picture here of a bunch of doughheads, white people, welcoming their demise and encouraging other people to embrace the war that is being inflicted upon them in their own small hometown. And as I keep saying, this is part of World War III. This is the spiritual, psychological war. They have to do it this way because they can't bomb us. It wouldn't fly. No one could ever explain the bombing of Canada. It just wouldn't make any sense. Now, I got another story here on that, if I can dig it out. Off another, I found it on one of the online papers. If I can dig it out here, the Kincardine Times. And some nice, I'm going to put this in because it's got a link to it. And I know the broad that deals with this thing, and she is also a Marxist bitch from hell. But, you know, we just tend to complain about this stuff. Now this particular story really makes me want to puke. In a remarkable event, more than 250 people gathered in sub-zero temperatures of sand in solidarity Friday night in Kincardine's Muslim community at a candlelight vigil outside the Kincardine Islamic Center. I don't know that there's more than maybe 10 Muslims in this entire town, maybe only 4. So it's not like but they're getting their foothold in here. Just before the event began at 6 p.m., scores of people lined up on the street to sign a book of condolence. The Islamic Center serves as a gathering place and mosque for Kincardine's small community, Muslim community. Quite by coincidence, my campaign office, now this is Alan Thompson, the candidate for the Liberals federally. This is him talking in here. It doesn't say it in this. It's a really badly written article, but I know who we're talking about here. Quite by coincidence, my campaign office during the 2015 election was co-located in the same building as the Islamic Center right across the street from Tim Hortons in downtown Kincardine. So we got to know each other quite well. After last weekend's tragedy, I got in touch with my friend at the mosque, Ayman Fada, and got involved with their plans to hold a vigil on Friday, the same day as the funerals. With little time to organize, we posted a simple notice, Facebook, borrowed the candles we use in the Christmas Eve service at the Presbyterian Church in Glamis, so he's obviously attached to the Glamis Presbyterian Church, which Kathy, the evil witch, is involved in. And then to our amazement, watched dozens of people, yada, yada, yada. Ayman Fada welcomed everyone and said how overwhelmed he and other members of the community have been by the outpouring of support. The events in Quebec City had left them heavy-hearted and fearful, for some even worried about the well-being of their children. In Kincardine, where we don't have to lock our doors, he was worried about the well-being of their children. How remarkable then to see so many people showing up at tonight's vigil. Reverend Kathy Fraser from the Knox Presbyterian Church spoke on behalf of the community, a community that raised this community, my town, that raised tens of thousands of dollars as part of a campaign to sponsor refugees in the wake of the Syrian crisis. Now, I doubt anybody, or very few people, if any of them, had a clue or have a clue what's going on in Syria, why it's going on in Syria, who's behind what's going on in Syria, and why the mass need to move migrants. Nope, we're Canadians, and we're easily suckered. Well, I ain't, but most of the... I was talking to some of my brother-in-laws, and I got two of them helping me work on this store we're renovating, and my one brother-in-law today, he's just looking at the people. I told him about this story, and he's going, what the hell is wrong with these people? Well, they've been led down the garden path is what's wrong with them. They've become stupid, more or less. It's a tremendous community, he goes on to say, that we live in here in Kincardine. Brothers and sisters are standing together tonight as a demonstration of the love we have for one another and the shared sorrow and support and encouragement that we want to share with one another as well, she said. Oh, that was Kathy Fraser. And she wrote a little poem here. She didn't write it. She went on to quote from 4th century theologian St. Augustine. What does love look like? It has the hands to help others. It has the feet to hasten to the poor and needy. It has the eyes to see misery and want. It has ears to hear the sighs and sorrows of men. And I wanted to add, she says, that it has the compassionate heart and the courageous spirit to gather together on a cold winter's night and stand together and to share the warmth, she concluded. Here in Bruce, MPP Lisa Thompson said how proud she was of the people of Kincardine for the amazing turnout. Here in Kincardine and across here in Bruce and across Canada, we stand together with all Canadians, Thompson said. We stand united in the sense that we are an open, inclusive, welcoming community, said Thompson, who was echoed by MP Ben Lobb and Kincardine Councillor Laura Haight. Ayman Fada invited me to the microphone as I spoke about how we became neighbors and we rented the same building, and how comforting. This is the Liberal MP now, or the guy that ran for the Liberals. I spoke about how we became neighbors when we rented the same building and how comforting it was to hear the sound of their prayers on the other side of the walls. It was really a lovely few minutes before 6 o'clock to see so many people lining up to come and be here. And as Lisa said, it makes you proud of a community that comes together that way because, well, we are neighbors. I don't know. I don't. I know we don't need to remind you that this is your home and we're your neighbors, and that's the reason for being here tonight. I also spoke on how the timing for tonight's vigil was changed to 6 p.m. so that it wouldn't conflict with the wake of and Legion Memorial Service for former Kincardine Mayor and war hero Charlie Mann. Charlie Mann is a former mayor, but is also a decorated war hero and was fighting for the kind of country where people would come together this way and stand together and say to their neighbors that you are welcome and you are part of our community. And we are very, very glad that you are here. Now, Charlie Mann just died. He was 94 years old. And he was the mayor of Kincardine, I think, back in the 1970s. And Laura Haight, who is definitely a Marxist UN agent, as is everybody on the council, in every town hall, in every community in this nation, had Laura Haight's, Charlie Mann had Laura Haight's election sign on his front lawn. And I got talking to Charlie one day. I noticed him walking down the street, and we don't live but 2 blocks away. We didn't live but 2-3 blocks away from each other. And I was walking down the street, and I ran into Charlie, and we got talking. And I asked him, I says, why in the name of good God would you be putting Laura Haight's sign on your front lawn? I said, didn't you fight in the wars for the so-called freedom thing, and then you put Laura Haight's, or Height, whatever you want to pronounce it as, sign on your front lawn? And he said, well, she's a good woman. Is she really? So me and Charlie chatted for a while, and I explained to him some of the stuff that Laura was up to, and what the council was up to. So this would have been way back in 2010. And Charlie looks at me and he goes, what you're describing is communism. And I said, yeah, didn't you supposedly fight to save the world from communism? Next morning, I was driving down the road, and I drove by Charlie's place, and I noticed that Laura's sign was no longer on Charlie's front lawn. It was now moved out to the median between the sidewalk and the road, and therefore it was on municipal property now, no longer on Charlie's front lawn. And I spoke to Charlie over the years. I remember when he was 90, I was talking to him and his daughter, and his daughter is pretty upset about what's going on. And I told Charlie, I said, you need to speak up, my friend. And he said, what? I'm 90 years old. And I said, you're still breathing, my friend. You have no excuse for not speaking out. But Charlie's gone now, and these pathetic pieces of meat tie Charlie Mann, war hero, in with their communist movement called the United Nations, the globalist, the corporate, and use his name to further promote their schemes and frauds. That really makes me want to puke. But hey, it's 2017. What do you expect? So this kind of garbage is going on everywhere, and it needs to be brought to a halt. Now, I've been telling people for as long as I can remember, well, that's not true. No, it is true. I've been telling people for many, 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 many years. There's an old maxim that you will either affect politics or you will be affected by it. This is a classic example of being affected by it. Now, I try to encourage people to run at the local level because this is where this is taking place, at the local level, where you live. And you gotta get involved. Bitching and complaining is fine. You know, bitching and complaining is fine, I guess, but it doesn't get nothing accomplished. Now, what are these Muslims up to? Well, they're doing exactly what I've been trying to tell my brothers and sisters to do. Get involved. Now, if I can find it here, and again, I gotta close some of these damn links down. I must have well over 100 open now. But down in here somewhere, I got population things, I got Muslim things, I got social credit things. I got so much stuff open here, it's nuts. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. Members of Muslim community protest at City Hall. UN says refugees pose zero national security risk to these. Right. London, Ontario unanimously backs call to declare itself a sanctuary city against Trump. Let's see, Guide to the George Soros Network. A bunch of direct democracy bullshit from the UN. Where is what I'm looking for? Because I want to go through this a little bit if I can dig it out here. Sudbury United Church transforms itself into a mosque. Just bear with me, I will find this. A group of Canadian parliamentarians advocates more democratic global government. These are professors, politicians, NGOs, all pushing the United Nations global governance. Here we go, somewhere down in here. Tension's high. I hope I didn't close that out. Man, I got a lot of weird stuff open here. Not weird, it's just a lot of stuff. A lot of it I don't want to close down. I don't have to go looking for it again. People. Surely I can find this. Anyways, while I'm looking for it, what I'm trying to talk about is a whole bunch of sites. These Muslim advocacy groups are all involved in telling their people what they need to do, and that is to I can't find it. Is telling their people what to do, and that is to get involved in civil duties, to run for the local councils, to get involved in political science, to become lawyers, but the biggest part is to get involved in the political system. Why? Well, where does the power come from? Where do the laws come from? From the councils and upward from there, to provincial, state, federal levels. They're the ones that write the laws. Now, as they gain power in the legislative assemblies, they get to influence. They get to put bills forward. They get to move their agenda while we sit around whining and bitching about what's going on. That's called suicide. You can't help your nation if you don't stand up and do something. And if you're not prepared to stand up and do something, then I guess you're going to get exactly what you deserve. And you ain't going to like what's coming. So you have to get involved. You have to turn the TV set off. You have to participate. Global citizenship is the key to world peace. What exactly does that mean? Global citizenship is the key to world peace. Because once you're global slaves and your global overlords control all the armies on earth, control all the food, control all the water, control all the communications, control all of the media, and you will be at peace. Because if you raise your ugly little head, it will get knocked off. Or you'll be sent to a mental institution, or you'll be jailed. So that's the idea of global citizenry bringing global peace, is that you have lost any independence that you thought you may have. Because the white race is such a minority on the planet, the chance of your bills getting ahead of their bills is minuscule, to say the least. I saw a thing about London, Ontario. Something like 20% of London, Ontario, which is a city of about 500,000 people, is Arab. This boggles my mind. London, Ontario, when I was a teen, was white. Kitchener, Waterloo, Ontario, was white. Toronto, for the most part, was white. Brampton was white. Now they call it Bangladesh. And we don't seem to notice these things going on. I don't know how. Why don't we just keep moving aside? Why are people moving out of their communities to get away from the influx of what's coming in their community? Why don't they stand up, and why don't they run in their local councils? This idea there's nothing we can do about it makes me sick to the stomach. There's nothing you can do about it. If you've made the decision, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, we got these things all connected to the United Nations. Ref World. Ref World. Huh? Ref World. Refugee Protection and International Migration. Legal documents. Starts off with the legal document, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris on December the 10th, 1948. Been going downhill ever since. I'll put these things in, you may be interested in taking a look at them. You know, most people are content to talk about Donald Trump or whoever, or our pisshead Prime Minister, Tinkerbell Trudeau. And this is all just noise and distraction. Nothing you're going to hear on the mainstream media or read in a paper has anything to do with reality. It's just noise. It's just a bunch of noise to keep you chatting about the noise. Very few people ever take the time to go behind the noise. Very few. Here's your global migration group. It's another group pushing the agenda. And people say, "Oh no, it's good. We gotta bring all these people in." And they got one line here that really makes you want to throw up, and they repeat it incessantly. Well, everybody in the West, everybody in North America is an immigrant. Well, I didn't immigrant. I'm not an immigrant. And why did my forefathers come here? To get away from the damn tyranny they were living under in their homeland. There's so many of these things. General Assembly of the United Nations, high-level meeting of the 68th session of the General Assembly, high-level dialogue on international migration and development, making migration work. This is all planned. Just like everything the United Nations does and every other ugly organization that's attached to it. Pushing the agenda leads to grabbing. Oh, that's possible. That's possible. But we got huge problems here in the West. Huge, huge problems in the West. I love this one story. I love this. This says more than anything really else can. And I think I brought this up on the last show I did. But this is a kick-ass statement. UN refugee chief opposes safe zones in Syria. Because if you have safe zones, there's no need to send them here. So he opposes the safe zones because the safe zones would interfere with their plans. I do believe that before long, people are going to start to understand what the hell's going on. I think even if people got their heads shoved completely up their asses, eventually they're going to... Now, most people have heard of Neil Young, Canadian singer, back from the 60s. This guy here, Neil Young, who I used to listen to when I was young. He was one of the, they sang that song, I forget what the name of it is. But, what the hell was the band he was with? Crosby, Nash, Stills and Young, or whatever it was called. When they weren't that band, they were I forgot what the name of the band was now, but they sang the song "Listen, Everybody, Something's Up," right? And that song, and they were singing protest songs basically. But Neil Young is one of those celebrities who sold his soul. You know, people. My wife is quite intelligent, and you know, he had that song. Neil Young had this song. You know, I'm an independent. I don't sing for Pepsi, and I don't sing for Coke. I don't sing for Budweiser, whatever that song was. And my wife said, "Isn't that sneaky?" Because that's exactly what he's doing. By saying he doesn't sing for Coke and Pepsi and Budweiser, whoever, that's exactly what he's doing, as he mentions all of their names. But Neil Young is among the artists, activists, urging Trudeau government to reform the electoral system, and that is direct democracy. And where did direct democracy come from? Who's pushing direct democracy? Well, the UN. And why? For a global vote. So you, the global citizen, can have a vote on international issues which have nothing whatsoever to do with you. But you'll be voting, they say, on global problems that require global solutions by a global government, and you're the global idiot citizen. Now, Neil Young ran around with David Suzuki pushing that agenda. So we know that either Neil Young has had a hemorrhage and has gone stupid, or Neil Young has always been a player. And unfortunately, Neil Young has always been a player. Now, he gets played up all over the place, and he's playing the agenda. The Dixie Chicks, on the other hand, did not. And, well, we all know what happened to their careers. So, a collection of activists, political players, and artists, including musician Neil Young, is calling on Justin Trudeau's Liberal government to keep its promise to implement a new federal electoral system in time for the 2019 election. We congratulate the newly appointed minister, the Honorable Karina Gould, and urge her to move to implement the key recommendations of the Parliamentary Committee and move to a system of proportional representation for the next federal election. Reads a statement signed by former Chief Electoral Officer Jean-Pierre Kingsley, environmentalist David Suzuki, who, without Morris Strong, who made David Suzuki, without Morris Strong, who David Suzuki would have never had his The Nature of Things with David Suzuki on CBC, our communist broadcasting corporation. Musicians Neil Young and Sarah Harmer and artist Robert Bateman, among others. All sold their souls. These are the only people, these are the kind of people that you read about in the newspapers and you hear about on the radio and you see on the TV. The statement was issued by the Every Voter Counts Alliance, which is sponsored by the Broadbent Institute. Now, Ed Broadbent is NDP, which is members of the Socialist International, Fair Vote Canada, and various other organizations, and labor unions, including Unifor and CUPE. Now, Unifor is kind of funny because I think I've said this before on shows. I was invited to speak to a group in London, Ontario, and they had sponsored a few speakers, and they had oh God, I'm bad for names today. anyways, he was the former deputy prime minister, and he's been in the Privy Council since it first began here in Canada, and him and Prince Charles, and he's 90 something now, I think. And he spoke, but he can't speak without speaking about UFOs, because he pushes that agenda, which is the UN agenda. But Unifor, which is up to its ass in the agenda, obviously, because it's mentioned here, they said, well, we'll just book the Unifor hall. And I said, I think you'll have to find a different hall, because there's no hope in hell these boys are going to allow me to speak there. Oh, yeah, we've had different speakers there. Well, you go call them, but I don't think when they mention my name, I'm going to be allowed to speak there. And I wasn't. We had to go find a different hall. Anyways, but the unions, including Unifor and McCupey, are all agents. Now, the people working for them may not realize that they're agents, but they're the same ones that the people that are in the unions push the environmental agenda. They worry about global warming, and they'll go out and pick up pop cans in the ditch or whatever every now and again to show they care about the environment. But they're just minions. They're just puppets. They're fools, because they don't even know what they're doing, why they're doing it. They just fall into line. Karina Gould was appointed Minister of Democratic Institutions earlier this month, replacing Marion Monsef in joining cabinet. She inherited the file that has challenged the Trudeau government for more than a year. A report by a special committee of MPs was delivered to Parliament in December and recommended that the federal government hold a referendum on some form of proportional representation, but the recommendation was not unanimous, and even some of those who supported it, the New Democrats and the Greens, also questioned the necessity of a referendum. Subsequently, there was an online consultation launched that was derided by opposition MPs. Neither Gould nor Trudeau has yet explained how the federal government will move forward. The government now has both the challenge and the opportunity to design a proportional system which it can and which it should support, Kingsley said on Thursday, referring back to the committee report earlier. The government tables this proposal, the greater the opportunity for Canadians to consider it, to debate it, and understand it. Now, not Pierre Trudeau, but Tinkerbell Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, is a member of the UNPA, the United Nations Assembly, or Parliamentary Assembly. As is David Suzuki, as is Elizabeth May, head of the Green Party. Ed Broadbent, I think, is NDP. Jack Layton was NDP before he died. Full of NGOs, parliamentarians, professors, all members pushing for a United Nations Parliamentary Assembly, of which we get this new voting system, a global electronic voting system. We all know how easily the vote is manipulated, especially in the electronic age. And so there we have good old, and he is old now, Neil Young, and he is part and parcel of this game. So, my advice is if you see anything popular, boycott it. I don't care if it's a new TV show. I don't care if it's a new politician. I don't care if it's a poet or a musician or an artist. If they are popular in the media, boycott them, because they are agents working to destroy your nation from inside. And that's a psychological game that's being played, and I keep saying it is World War III, and it is spiritual and psychological. They're using psychology, pulling at the heartstrings, pulling at the worry strings, pulling at the fear strings to get you to submit without ever doing any of your own damn research to understand the things in complete and total constructed fraud in order to get you to give yourself over to the governance of the most evil sons of bitches that ever walked this planet. The same sons of bitches that created the depressions, the same sons of bitches that created the wars. And if you think for 1 second that you're going to play out good on this human rights garbage, just think of the hundreds of millions of innocents that have been killed over the years as they try to grasp their golden ring of world government. Now, you think things are bad today. If you give these pricks what they want, and they get what they want, well, it's going to be ugly. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, we need to, strengthen our minds and clear our minds, strengthen our spines, get back to being men. I've seen on Facebook a bunch of people saying, we need to go, the police need to arrest Justin Trudeau for bringing all these immigrants in and not looking after the people here in Canada. Lots of homeless people here, richest country on the planet, lots of homeless people, lots of sick people, lots of people can't afford a roof or proper food, old people struggling between, do we pay for the crazy price of hydro now, or do we take our medication, or do we eat? Meanwhile, has hundreds of millions of dollars to bring in refugees. And these people seem to be getting upset, but they go, well, we need the police to arrest them. I said, well, the police took the same oath he took, and that's to serve the Queen Crown Corporation. So they ain't going to arrest him. But on the upside, everyone has the right and the powers of arrest. Any man can arrest any man at any time if they're causing harm. There's an elected official out there that isn't causing harm. So we need to start arresting these clowns. Because if we let them continue what they're doing, you say, well, they pissed me off, I'm going to vote them out and vote somebody in the next time. You just voted in the same agents. And the quality of your life in your country is going to continue to go downhill. And that sucks. And we can't allow it. Anyways, I should just throw in so you can, my little hometown here, because we're going to get music right away. But there's our little online paper. This broad used to work for one of the papers in town, and then ended up going on this online thing. I'll stick that in, and you can see my little hometown and my little jackass politicians and ministers embracing their own demise. Shoot, shoot. Anyways, that's the end of the show. Everybody have a great night. We'll be back here Thursday night. With more stuff, and enjoy my little town newspaper, online newspaper. Everybody take care. You guys.